Someone asked me where all the spooky season episodes are for the podcast.
Oh,
Was it
right
Ryan?
here.
No, someone asked me.
Oh, where are all the spooky season movies for the podcast?
They're here.
Spooky
Bum,
season.
bum.
Yeah, welcome.
They're here.
As you guys know, I don't know how to start the podcast yet. So it's either going to be the best, smoothest delivery of a joke ever on the podcast, or something along the lines of welcome late to the movies. My name's Ben Holt, and this podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Every week we'll pick a movie that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, that movie is 1982's Poltergeist. And the guests left to right across your podcast aisle, we got Ray,
Hi.
Greg,
Hey.
and Robbie.
Yo.
And yeah, this is an exciting time because it's the beginning of Spook 'em Up month. We got all the best Spook 'em Ups coming your way. We got 4 of them on the docket. This is only one that's from the summer of 1982. There's going to be another one next week. You can probably guess what it is. This is the 3rd episode on a movie from the summer of 1982 that we've done in our 1 year of the podcast.
Halloween, the other one?
No one's going to say happy birthday. This episode is going to come out on the 1 year anniversary minus a day of the podcast starting, which was October 4th, 2021. This is October 3rd, 2022. So
Happy Pod Day.
that's correct. Thank you, Robbie. But before we get into all the Pod Day festivities and into Spook 'em Up month, we are going to talk a little bit about... You guys watched anything good recently?
I did not vote on Spook 'em Up month. I just want to throw that out there.
That's what we call these kinds of movies, right? Spook 'em Ups?
Spook Mups.
You know, you always ask what we've watched, and I'm somehow never prepared.
I'm prepared. Not really.
Oh, I
We,
know
uh,
what we've watched.
Yeah, the Great British Bake Off started a new season.
Hell yeah, spooky.
It's fucking spooky.
Ooh.
10
10 contestants, but only 7 pairs of teeth or whatever. I don't know. British people have bad teeth.
Yes.
They have bad food too.
Yeah.
Ooh, did they make something brown?
They
Just
made
everything.
They made a cookie called the squashed fly cookie
Oh my
or
God.
something.
Biscuit.
Yeah, well,
don't have
biscuit. That's right. I'm
cookies.
sorry. Yeah, it's a biscuit.
It's
They're
gross.
like, oh,
yeah.
this sounds
I
great.
call everything biscuits or
What
chips.
else have we? What,
They're like,
yes.
it's called that because it looks like a bunch of squashed flies. I was like, oh, good.
Appetizing.
And then
And then people went online and they got all mad that they like changed the recipe because they added chocolate. And I'm like, okay.
Well, you know, British people always want to honor their roots.
That
Seems
has
like-
flavor.
I think
Protein, too.
the only other thing we've watched is we watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah. The kiddo wanted to watch that one, and we've watched it.
This is probably a good time to talk about it. We're not doing that movie this month, but the guy who actually directed it has a new movie coming out soon. That's produced by Jordan Peele, so it's going to get like a pretty, big release, I think. I want to say Henry Selick or something like that. I don't have it in front of me.
It's something like that.
Yeah. And I saw something online of someone, much like people being like, oh, it's Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. I saw someone's online like, wow, Jordan Peele's got a new movie coming out. It's like, this guy can't catch a break.
Poor guy.
He's directing so many movies and no one will ever know. But question for the group, is that a Halloween or a Christmas movie?
I think it's a Halloween movie.
Almost definitely a Halloween movie, just because it has Christmas. I've never seen it, but I've seen the stick figures. That's
I
not
think
how
it-
I imagine Christmas.
I really think it can be either.
Okay. I'll have to watch
Do
it.
you know
before
anything about it, Robbie?
Not really.
So it's about, there's like these different towns where the main like players of holidays live. They don't necessarily know about the other towns.
So our town is Halloween Town,
yeah.
Okay.
and he accidentally stumbles upon Christmas Town, and he's like, "Wow, this is dope."
Yeah. He's like,
And he's like,
"What's
"I'm gonna
this?"
throw a Christmas," and the whole movie is him like taking over as Santa Claus, basically.
Yep.
But he's
So
having
this-
like all of Halloween Town like try to put Christmas together. So it's all spooky Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like it can definitely just be both.
I
Yeah.
always
It
say you
kinda
can
is both,
be
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do either. I think if you do it now, it's fine. But if you do it like for Christmas, then it's like, well, Halloween already happened. So I'm not feeling
Yeah.
connected to that part of the film.
I think it just gets like way overshadowed with like all the other Christmas stuff. So like once you throw it in there, it's just like meh.
I feel like the aesthetic too doesn't fit. Like just
Yeah.
with like how the characters look, but that's fine.
Yeah, they're not Christmassy characters for sure.
I've been watching Westworld. I rewatched the first 2 seasons, and I'm on season 4 now.
Okay.
It's been I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
I want to say an episode recently that I think it was Colin who was on. Vaz was there too. I forget what episode it was, but anyway, he said that it gets better
It does
again.
get better.
Like the quality goes up by the most recent season, which was 4. Was the most recent one?
4, and I'd say season 3 was really good too
Yeah.
because it's about big data, and I
Okay.
think that's a really cool. And then Aaron Paul's in it. I fucking love Aaron Paul.
Yeah, I've seen like a couple stills from it. I'm like, wait, is that Aaron Paul?
Yeah,
I didn't know he was in that show.
As soon as it came up, I was like, how did I not know Aaron Paul was in this? Like,
Yeah.
I would have watched it way earlier.
But the quality ticks back up.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Season-
That's good.
Once you rewatch it too, I feel like season 2 isn't as bad as I remember. It's just noticeably worse than season 1, and we waited so long for it. I feel like it let us down.
Nice.
But
Well, not nice that it let you down, but nice that it's like coming,
yeah.
back up. Yeah, I mean, I keep almost hovering over that on HBO Max. Like, ooh, do I pick it back up again? I think I would have to start from the beginning because I haven't watched season 2 since it was like on air, and that's where I stopped. So.
You should definitely start from it's where the season 1 is really worth a rewatch because you know the big twists and you
Sure.
can actually see the pieces, and it's very entertaining.
Yeah, that's true. Anything else you guys want to mention?
I don't think so. We
Okay.
watched Mean Girls again because it popped up on Netflix. Love that movie.
I
I
think
think
that's-
This Is the End again.
Oh, that also
yeah, great
popped up on
movie.
Netflix.
Also a
Mhm.
great movie.
I think Mean Girls is back in theaters.
I don't know.
I saw
think
like
I saw
an
that
ad
too.
for that. I was like, all right, that's
Yeah.
We
on
are
October 3rd? Is that what it is?
Oh,
that would make-
probably.
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 That would make a lot of sense actually.
Mm.
For as we're recording this, the episode's not out yet, but when this episode comes out, it'll be the episode after the Mean Girls episode. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, we also watched It Chapter 1 and 2 again.
Nice.
Get into spooky stuff.
I liked chapter 1 more, probably,
I
but I wonder if you just watch them all together, it's sort of just like one thing, probably.
I liked Chapter 2, but I think it's just because it's all like
We
fan
just love
service
the
of the
book.
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do an episode on that already?
Mm-mm.
Should I save that?
Oh, you haven't watched it yet? Up to you.
I haven't watched any of them. It's
I'm
fine.
not huge on like the CGI based horror movies
Okay.
of recent times.
It's
So.
fair. I was gonna ask that about Poltergeist. Do you know how they did the ghosts?
I assume it's a lot like how they did the ghost. Oh no, wait, we can't talk about it yet. Ask that question again once we're in it.
I know what the
Okay.
answer is.
I
Oh,
was gonna say I assume it's the same way they did ghosts at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I'm not sure.
okay. I don't know how that is either, so I'll ask again.
It's fucking weird. And if Greg actually knows, then that's
I
great.
don't really know. I thought I
Fuck.
knew what you were going to say, and I
Oh.
didn't know that either.
They're real ghosts. Is that what you're
They're
saying?
real ghosts.
They're real ghosts.
I will say, as soon as I saw those ghosts, I will immediately, as soon as someone went, I wonder what year they remade this in. Because I was like, someone definitely saw this, like, we can make this so much better now. Let's just remake it, put it out again.
My thought was like they did a decent job for the tech they had at the time because I couldn't figure out like how I would have done that. You know what I mean? Maybe
Just
like
use real
sheets and
ghosts.
lights.
This is all good content, but I'm gonna have to cut it because we haven't switched to the movie yet.
don't
What have
understand.
I watched recently? So here's what I've been watching. So recently I've been watching a lot of horror movies to get ready for this, and I'll just say Pearl's in theaters as we're recording this. I like Pearl. Thought that was good. I think Barbarian's still in theaters. It was #1 in theaters when it came out, which is pretty crazy. And
I want to see that one, but I'm kind of a bitch, so I'm a little scared.
it is, it's grosser, more than scary-ish for me, but it's not the kind of horror that gets at me. So maybe it would be for you. I think your mileage may vary there. I leaving the theater, the mood was jovial more than anything.
Okay.
So those have all been good stuff. But what I want to talk more about is the streaming service Shudder, which a lot of people say, many people are saying, is one of the better streaming services. I agree. It has like 3 live channels that are just like live streaming, which is cool. You can just like throw it on and be like, what's this? That's weird. And watch it for like 5 minutes. It helps with if you're like very indecisive. But anyway, every episode this week, month, oh my God, every episode this month, I'll pick a different movie from Shudder that I've watched and, recommend it. And this week, that movie is Saloom. If you're way too online, you may have seen people talking about it on Twitter a lot recently. I think it just got to Shudder for streaming. It's called Saloom. It's a Senegalese movie, and it is awesome. It's really cool. It's as influenced by like stuff that I wouldn't necessarily understand, not being Senegalese and understanding all the cultural references. It's as referenced, I'm sure, by things that I'm not aware of, as it is by like Tarantino and Michael Bay and Michael Mann. And like there's literally a briefcase full of golds, like, you know, in Pulp Fiction. And I know that's just a gold light. We don't know if there's gold in it, whatever. But in this movie, it's just a genre mashup that I don't want to give too much away about, but it's really cool. It's stylish and interesting. And I feel like a lot of movies from, you know, markets or whatever that break through even just online here are usually kind of like indie drama type style things. So to see something that's like this big genre mashup of some thriller, some horror, but also action movie, it was really cool. I saved the best for last. It's about 83 minutes long, including credits. So that is my Shudder spotlight for this episode. Okay. I hope you have some content left to talk about Poltergeist, because now we can actually switch to that movie.
That was actually all
I had. Yeah.
No, that's too bad. All right. The segment where we're going to talk about Poltergeist, they're here. Perfect transition.
Nailed it.
Flawless.
Don't like it.
Nailed it. Was this a first time for all of us?
Yeah.
I had never seen it.
The jury's still out, but I think so.
Yeah, you thought you had.
I
but,
thought I had seen it.
but maybe you've just seen the.
I might have seen the remake.
I'm gonna say 2015 remake.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I hadn't seen this before. So I think this might be a first on the podcast of a blind watch by all of us.
Not only had I not seen this, I knew nothing about it, but I did know it was a movie where a girl. I thought it was like, oh, there's a little kid who gets sucked into a television, which is not like totally wrong.
There's television and they're sucking into a thing, but not necessarily into a television.
No.
So any of us are eligible to do a 1-minute plot summary. Anyone feeling frisky?
Yeah, I'll do it. I forgot this was a thing, so I'm not prepared, but I'm ready.
Okay, go for it whenever you're ready.
Okay, so we start with a nice, wholesome American family in like the 80s. They're living in their awesome house in this development where every house is exactly the same. It's all brand new. We start with the daughter sleepwalking and talking to the television. This kind of continues. Some spooky stuff starts happening. We find out that there's apparently ghosts in the house. They abduct the daughter. The rest of the movie is the family trying to get her back from wherever she is. The supernatural events in the house get worse and worse and worse. They don't understand why. And eventually the dad who works for the development finds out that his home and the whole development was built on a graveyard that they just moved. Eventually they're able to get some spiritual people to come in. They go into the ghost world real quick and pull the daughter out. Everybody's happy. They think everything's solved. Everything just restarts up to 11 with all the supernatural stuff. They have to escape the house, and they end up learning that the cemetery wasn't moved, only the headstones were. And that was their big reveal as the skeletons and stuff start popping up. And the family flees, and they are all okay in the end.
Yeah. I mean, lots of therapy to come, I'm sure, but they're all alive at the end.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at the clock. I assume you did it in under a minute, so good job.
Yeah, it was exactly 60 seconds.
Why this dog named E-Buzz?
Is he
What
E-Buzz?
the hell was that name?
Based on the
subtitles will say
captions.
E-Buzz. Yeah.
Which, to be fair, there are times that the captions actually were inaccurate to what was said. But it
They were
was like
consistent.
capital E period, capital B Buzz.
Yes, so that is
That
what
threw me off a
they
lot,
said.
but there was
What does
enough
that
going on
mean?
where I was.
Oh, I thought you were gonna have an answer.
No.
I
I'm
thought
gonna
they
try
were
to
maybe
look it up.
going for like a Buzz Aldrin thing, but I couldn't figure out what the E
Yeah.
would be.
Right, yeah. Electric Buzz Aldrin. What'd you name your dog? We named him Electric Buzz Aldrin.
Okay, that's actually a really good name, though.
It's from an SNL skit.
Oh, of course it
I
is.
just Googled it really quick.
Wow, we're aging ourselves, but not in a bad way. We're too young to have gotten the reference.
Yeah, that's a really
act
weird
as-
thing to name your pet
Act
off
out the
of.
skit for us real quick.
Dan Aykroyd played an art critic named E. Buzz Miller. And that's it. That's all I got. But yep.
All right. Well, I guess a reference to Aykroyd is appropriate, I guess.
Oh, so right off the bat, I was wondering, doesn't
Ghostbusters isn't out for another 2 years after this, so I guess it's just a random Dan
don't-
Aykroyd reference.
does Spielberg normally not direct movies he writes? Because I thought he's normally the director too. I thought that was a little weird.
That's an entry point we can get into. I always like to think about stuff. I'll try and write down a short list if it's a movie I haven't seen before. What do I already know about this, or what do I think I know about this? And one of those things is definitely this discourse restarts every few years for some reason. It's been an ongoing, I guess, controversial topic. Did Tobe Hooper actually direct this movie, or was it like Ghost, pun not intended, directed by Spielberg, who produces it and writes it, but because of his contracts with, I think, Universal for E.T., he can't direct more than one movie at a time. So this comes out, I think, 2 weeks after E.T. does, the same summer. Again, 1982. That's one of the other 1982 Summer of movies that we've done. Do you guys know the other one? Yeah?
Is it the thing?
No, we haven't done that on this podcast.
Oh, I thought you were going to though.
Yeah, we're going to next
Okay.
week.
Haven't.
Spoilers.
Blade Runner.
Oh.
Blade Runner and The Thing came out on the same day in the summer of 1982. E.T. and Poltergeist come out, I think, 2 weeks apart. But so Spielberg isn't allowed to direct this, but he's on set almost every day. He's a producer, and there's been controversial authorship stuff since then. There was a lot of contemporaneous quotes around then that either correctly stated or overinflated Spielberg's creative influence on the direction of the movie. The Paramount movie, whatever it is, they had to pay Tobe Hooper a settlement for how much people thought that he didn't direct the movie, because on behalf of Tobe Hooper, the Directors Guild Association of America or whatever sued the film distributor for overstate, because they make Steven Spielberg's title come above the directors, which is not usually done. Anyway, so all that being said, both Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg have maintained for a while now that Tobe Hooper directed this movie. But Spielberg had a lot of creative control. It was originally his pitch. He wanted it to be more sci-fi-ish. I think it was called Night Skies. He takes it to Tobe Hooper, and Tobe Hooper says, I'll work with you, but I don't want to do that. What if it's like a haunted house movie? So yeah, a lot of creative input from Spielberg, as more so than most normal producers would have, and more on-set direct creative influence than most producers would have, and he also wrote the movie. So it is unusual for Spielberg to only be a writer.
Not to doubt Spielberg, but I do not see this working as a sci-fi. I mean, I guess who knows what it would have come out
I think
as.
they changed a lot of stuff. That was just like the original pitch that they brought Tobe Hooper in on.
The tree does go back to space in the end. In the middle.
I guess like the house could have been like a spaceship that landed there that they thought was a house.
Yeah.
You could argue the house also goes to space. In the end.
I can see it because it's like kind of like interdimensional almost, you know?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it could have been a spaceship, and they could have like explored this alien terrain, and maybe like a baby version of the alien jumps up on someone's face, and then like a
See that?
adolescent version jumps out of their
And-
chest later.
Yep, and then they lure it around with Reese's Pieces or whatever.
Yep.
He presented two ETs. One was wholesome and one was horror, and he just thought he could get away with it.
Well,
It was just E.T. again, but like a horror version.
yeah, as you, who just a few months ago rewatched E.T., would know, there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of visuals, not necessarily overlapping, but this neighborhood could be the same neighborhood that Elliot and his family lives in,
Yeah.
that the Freelings live in this movie. It looks very much the same, just like a generic California development kind of thing,
Yeah.
with lots of construction around it, which is true in E.T. also.
I would say like up close. I think when they tried to like focus on those like suburban shots, and when you
Yeah.
got like that picture of like the whole area, it was a lot more cramped than ET. But like
Yeah.
when it zoomed in, absolutely, it just felt like
Yeah, but when there's like, I think early on there's a shot of Dirk Blocker, Hitchcock from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the chubby guy on the bike with the alcohol.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
that's just for you because I know you like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, no, it's just funny to see him young.
Yeah. He's like riding his bike out of a cul-de-sac, and I'm like, oh, this is people ride a lot of bikes down cul-de-sacs in ET too. So
why were they so mean to him, and why did he not care?
He needed to get in to see the end of the game.
Yeah, he didn't have time to deal with that.
He didn't have time to deal with those. Obviously, those kids like 100 feet away trying to murder him.
I'm still upset about him running through the house with a beer just shooting everywhere.
Just everywhere.
If that was my house, I'd be so
Yeah, and then it turns out it's not even his house. He's a guest there.
Yes, and the
There's
owner
this-
doesn't seem to mind.
I really enjoyed like the whole like opening like 20 minutes because it just felt like I'm not from the 80s, but it just felt so nostalgic. I'm like, wow, like things were so different back then.
Thank God they fixed our goddamn remotes, because I would lose my mind.
He runs in with those beers, and I was like, that. The man who owns the house who's getting these beers is like, oh, a mess for my wife to clean.
Well, I was
I
like,
don't
Yeah,
know about this.
the beers are still spraying everywhere when
Everywhere.
he sits down on the couch in the
Yes.
living room
I was
after
thinking,
running
like, they-
through the house with him.
they can't pause the TV. Like, no, they can't. They can't
No.
do that. No.
So why is he so late? It seems to be towards the end of the game.
I
I
think
assume
he
they made
ran
him
out to
go
get
out, like a
beer.
mid-run.
And that's
As
why
I
he was on the
saying it-
bike too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as I was saying it makes sense. Right, yeah, he's not driving. It's smart.
I
It's
really like
responsible.
the opener for this.
Mm.
Because even before that happens, it's that night. Yeah, because it starts with a TV. Even before you see her, though, I think they show you the staircase. And I noticed the staircase right away because I was like, they don't make stairs like this.
That just sort of curve out into the middle of a room. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was very intrigued by all the houses because everything was new, but everything looked so old.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they're like, well, we made everyone like this. It's like, you want to take a second look at that staircase? You built 100 houses with that staircase?
Did you just have a bunch of old paneling lying around? Because the paneling already looks old. I don't know how you
Yeah,
did
mine-
that.
You tiled all your countertops.
Yeah. But yeah, so the opening before you even get credits, before you even get like a Steven Spielberg production, is the TV national anthem, patriotic things, the real close up on Iwo Jima Memorial,
Yeah.
and the girl talking to the TV, and that comes before anything you see anything else.
The like TV flickering they show a couple times is really off-putting. It's just
Yeah, watch it in a dark room, get a real strobe light effect going, and
Yes.
one of the a word we've never used on this podcast before. One of the most iconic images
Mm-hmm.
in film history, never even mind genre, never even mind horror movies, is the TV in Poltergeist. Just
Yes. I feel like I know the image of her putting her hands on the TV.
for sure. Yeah, that's
That
poster, the DVD covers, that, and you know.
I think that's like all I really knew about this movie was that image.
Yeah. So I guess to cycle back, what else did I know about this movie? My sister, and I misheard her, so it was a really confusing time for me. She said there's a tiny woman who is very off-putting, and then she gets, and I thought she said, and then she gets sucked into a TV. So the whole time that lady's there, I'm like, man, don't go near that TV, lady. I was like, then the movie, then like that part of the movie's over. I was like, maybe she comes back later. I told my sister that. She's like, yeah, I definitely didn't say that.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure you said that. I have it written down in these notes.
I mean, technically a tiny late. Oh no, because the girl's not in the TV. Never mind.
Yeah, she said
Nobody
no.
gets sucked in a TV.
I found the small lady upsetting because her voice is like sort of off-putting. And then also I thought the TV was upsetting. And
The
then
TV.
also a girl gets sucked into a closet. And that was upsetting because like I pushed all three of those things together into one sentence in my mind. But anyway,
That should be a thing. Like whenever somebody goes to watch like a movie that they should have
you should
seen,
lie to them.
you lie to them and then they expect something the whole time.
I guess this lady comes back.
Oh man, you're not gonna. Oh, you should go watch Poltergeist. It only ends once. Then they'll be really surprised when it gets. I really wonder how that false ending played back in the day. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We did a good job setting up. Here's what happens at the beginning, and then I was like, and here's some other random crap that isn't associated at all.
One other thing in the beginning that me and Ray thought was really funny. The same thing happened that happens every time in a movie like this. The dog shows up and he's like wandering around at me, and we're like, oh, what a good boy. And then it just proceeds to show us him wandering the house, stealing all the food he can find. And we're like, oh, never mind.
E-Buzz.
E-Buzz is not a good
He
boy.
is a good boy.
I was a super fan. I love those scenes. I thought that was fantastic.
Him like finding the bag of chips in the kid's bed like killed him.
Well, and then later, like when they're talking about weird things that happened, the kid's like, "I found a bunch of crumbs in my bed." And that wasn't the ghost. That was E-Buzz.
It's just smarter than a movie that's just about like a very haunted house would necessarily need to be, stuff like that.
Some of the scenes in this movie were genuinely hilarious.
Yes.
And I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
sure if they definitely were going for that. I'm sure, but
They were
I was
definitely
laughing
that
a
were-
lot.
Yeah, that were
Yeah, it's
intended to be
very
very
funny.
funny.
yes.
The builds, the first 25, 30-ish minutes, I guess really 30 plus minutes until the tree bursts through the window. Very good builds, very methodical and gradual, and a lot of great stuff in there. The girl already being bored with the chairs and people sliding across the kitchen. Like, yeah, it was fun for a couple hours, but you've seen one miracle. You've seen them all.
I loved that because I was just like this. The dad's like, no one can ever go in the kitchen ever again. And the mom's like, it's whatever. It's been happening all day. It seems fine.
It was really funny. The whole way that she handled that, like, I feel like I haven't seen that before in a horror movie where people are just like, oh, this is neat. Like, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I feel like honestly that's more like what someone would do. They'd be like, I gotta figure out I gotta try this.
You wouldn't assume it was ghosts. You do like she was basically doing like a study. Like she had like all the lines, like trying to figure it out. You'd probably be like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Like,
Yeah, but this is with some added context. This is after they've woken up in the middle of the night to their daughter saying they're here.
Oh, okay.
And she goes, ooh, and then the next morning she's like, who was here? And she says, the TV people. And then that stuff starts happening. She goes, was that the TV people? And she says, yes. And she's like, hell yeah, let's get after it.
Yes, because the chairs all got stacked in that like
Yep.
unbelievable pyramid
Yeah.
on top of the table already. So she knows it's ghosts.
And the fact that she puts the kid on
Well,
the
she
spot
knows
and
it's
puts her
TV
helmet on her.
people.
Yes.
Very fun. And the girl's just like, you can tell they've been doing this for hours.
Yeah, because she says she's like, I'm hungry. And we'll get pizza later or something like that.
She's like, fine, but I want pepperoni.
She hasn't fed them, you know what I mean?
It's which I thought it was really fun when the dad came home. She was like, "Mom hasn't made dinner yet." I'm like, "Oh, get him!"
I also was like making comments because when the football scene's going on is when Tweety dies. And I was like, the dad is not helping at all. First of all, one of the kids is just wandering. He's like 80 feet up in a tree for some goddamn reason.
Way too high.
And the other one's having this bird tragedy, and the dad is fucking watching that football game.
Fighting with Ben next door.
Bens are always like that.
Yeah.
There was just so many things that happened in the beginning of this movie where I was like, this doesn't happen today. This is great.
Yeah, it very much situates you in a specific time and place.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the build a lot. It feels a word that we might use a lot. No offense to Tobe Hooper, but it feels very Spielberg-y. I feel like it has the same kind of pacing as the first, 30-ish minutes of Jaws, where you're just kind of finding out a little bit at a time, and stuff is starting small. I mean, Jaws starts with shark murder, and there's a couple shark murders before they get on the orca. But I just mean in terms of like you're getting all this interpersonal stuff.
Yeah.
As far as building stuff, what do you guys think about all the stuff happening in their room? Because they show you like the closet.
So many creepy things.
They show you the clown. They show you the tree.
Bet that clown's gonna fucking try and choke a guy out later.
I was waiting for that fucking clown that whole goddamn movie.
I just I am asking, who enjoyed these goddamn clowns?
So,
I don't understand.
I don't know if you guys noticed, because I think it only happens once and it's pretty quick. During the scene where the kid gets pulled through the window by the tree, they cut to the girl in the bed screaming. She's sleeping with the clown. The clown is in her bed with her.
Oh my god!
And I'm like,
I thought,
that is scarier than the tree.
I thought that I at first I was like, oh, and is she also being attacked by the clown while he's being attacked by the tree? I was like, oh no, that she was just chilling with the
for
clown.
comfort?
It looked like the clown had its arm around her at first to
Oh
me.
man, that's a girl that grows up to be a serial killer. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like there's a few different moments early on, and not really with the 16-year-old daughter, but with Robbie, I want to say,
Yeah.
who's supposed to be what, 8 or 9. I know they say I think he's 8 and Carol Ann's 5, and they both say things that there's like kid logic that just like makes sense to them. And they say things that like, wow, that's really creepy. And if you were an adult, you wouldn't even think that. Like, I think when Robbie is talking about the tree and he's like, it knows I live here. And it's like, what a creepy way to think about a tree. And an adult would never think that. But that's absolutely, I feel like, a kind of thing a kid would be like, it knows where I live.
Well, yeah, yes. And I could see why you would think that. It is outside your window.
Yeah. And I like that the dad is like, no, it's like, it's a good tree. It's like, we built the house here because the tree's so old and wise. And like, there's never any redeeming qualities for that tree. You're looking at like, that tree's terrifying even before it starts to.
It just always had a random face sticking out of the side.
It's got a random face.
It's also like wicked dead, and it's a huge. Like, you're gonna leave this huge ass tree right next to your
10
brand new house.
feet from your house.
Oh, we specifically built our house next to this dead tree.
Every time there was like a flash too, and they give you like the shadow of the tree, it definitely did not match the tree that was outside. It was like a very stereotypical like Halloween cutout of a tree. Is what showed up on his wall, like the creepiest possible looking shape for a tree ever is what showed up on his wall every time lightning flashed.
Yeah, man. Ugh.
You mentioned that they were saying what all their ages were. I got very upset because they said they were 31, the parents, and I was like, oh no.
I was like, oh no, we're as old as the old people in horror movies.
Yeah, but people in their 30s in the 1980s do not look like people in their 30s.
They look so old. I was like, oh god, do I look this old?
A lot of it is like clothing and styling and makeup and hair.
And having
stuff.
a 16-year-old child.
Yes.
Also having a 16-year-old
Oh,
child.
that's not good.
Yeah, they mentioned that.
It's not great.
They're 31 or 32, and they said their oldest daughter is 16.
Yeah.
Well, it was a different time.
It was a different
It's
time.
Reagan's America.
And that's why you would look that old.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
absolutely.
It's the dead inside.
Yeah.
I did also love seeing a 5-year-old named Carol Ann because like
Yep.
every Carol Ann is like 50 at least.
I was laughing about that.
There's no baby Carol Anns anymore.
No.
Yeah, well, she was 40 years. She's 45 now.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
It's my mom's name too, so it was especially
funny.
like,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And my name's Robbie, so this movie is
Well,
this is actually my biography.
yeah.
And your dog is E-Buzz.
Yeah.
No, but that's Sydney backward.
It is, yeah.
You spell Sydney so weird.
Yeah, well, it's his choice, though.
A lot of silent letters in there.
It's like Elon Musk and Kyle.
Yeah.
We've talked about the parents a couple times. The dad is played by Craig T. Nelson, and he gives, a really good dad performance, especially in the early goings.
Oh,
I like that the parents are just really good parents. Like,
Yeah, they're
the
just
most part.
they're just getting a little high, but it's
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
they're fine, I guess. Yeah.
A
It's,
they're
parent-
loving parents.
it's a lot of 80s of like, don't watch your children, and they just like run off and do.
Yes,
whatever.
but that doesn't mean you don't like your children.
as far as the 80s go, though, I mean, especially somebody on a movie saying, I don't hit my kids, I think was like
That's what it was
shocking
like,
to
wow.
hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone must have been outraged. I'm
And they're
sure
like,
there was
who's the stern
protests.
one? They're like, neither of us.
Yeah.
We don't
Damn
yell at our
hippies.
kids. Yeah.
We were children ourselves when we had them, so we know what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. That moment's great, but we're not there yet. So this tree comes through the window and starts trying to eat Robbie.
There's
It's also what happens in the movie.
coincidence.
Robbie,
huh?
get away from the sliders.
They have a intense fucking score when that tree breaks through that window. I don't know if you.
I
guys
just
noticed.
love we're talking about this gradual sort of methodical build, and I just love that it's like, all right, it's fucking go time. This
Yeah,
tree
it
is
was-
bursting through the window with tree hands, and it's stuffing the kid in its
That
mouth.
was
It's
pretty
eating him.
crazy. I did not expect it to start eating him.
It's just fucking great.
I didn't.
And then he's
either-
just like covered in blood/sap for like the rest of that night, pretty much.
I think that caught me by surprise too, because I was so sure this movie was about her just getting sucked into the TV. So I was just like, she's gonna sleepwalk again. She's gonna go to the TV. She's gonna disappear. That's what I thought. And then I was gonna be like, oh, now they gotta find her. I didn't expect like this tree to abduct the kid, and then while they're doing this, her to get sucked into
Yeah.
a closet,
Really, just as a
violently
distraction.
sucked into the closet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The tree was just like the distraction.
Yeah, the ghost paid that tree. We need you to cause a scene here.
The imagery in this part is fucking awesome. When Carol Ann is like getting sucked in and she's like holding on to the headboard and it's like ripping apart and stuff. I don't know. That's just a cool thing to do to a little girl.
Yes.
I guess.
All the scenes of them being like sucked into something were like really cool. Anytime they had them like in the air. Later on, the mom's like on the wall and ceiling and stuff, and all that stuff looks really nice.
It's really good.
Yeah, I just remember thinking that scene, like, why is nobody checking on the youngest child? Like, I get one's being eaten by the tree, but like,
It's because you're watching when your kids are being eaten by a tree. You're like, this is probably the most pressing matter right now. My
Yeah.
kid's
it's
being
gotta be right. She's not getting sucked into a closet right now.
What are the odds that one of my kids being sucked into the closet while others being eaten by the tree? It's got to be 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah.
I did feel bad that like they were like running around looking for her, and poor Robbie just sitting there like covered in blood and like just standing there, and they're like running around trying to find the kid. I was like, ooh, this poor kid is pretty traumatized right
And
now.
they keep going back.
Somebody should help him.
As far as more like setup goes, they keep going back to the pool too.
Yeah.
She's in the pool. Like,
yeah.
that fucking pool, they just cannot. You know something's fucking happening with this pool.
Yep.
I thought one of them was gonna, like, one of the adults was gonna drown in the pool because obviously they keep
Yeah.
mentioning the pool, and
The mom, Diane, I want to say, JoBeth Williams, is almost several times falls into the pool in a short period of time because it just gets muddy. You can't get up.
it's too slippery.
You cannot stand up. Yeah, man, that is one of the, I guess, bigger surprises for me in just the way the movie's paced and structured. Usually when it's like daytime, it's considered like a reprieve, and just knowing what this movie's about is like, oh, is this just like one night? This just like one crazy night. But no, there's like, it's multiple days, and then it's daytime after that. And this is, I believe, when they go to the parapsychology department at like the local university and ask some people to come check it out. And like, oh, we haven't gone to the cops yet. We haven't told anyone about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I cannot get over when they have those people show up because I was not expecting when they like open the door of the room.
So funny.
One of
It's
the
so
funniest
funny.
And-
like in how he acts, like where he's like, like he doesn't have a lot of affection or affliction. Like he's just like, yeah, okay, here's the door, and it's just
Yeah.
nuts, just
Yeah.
immediately crazy.
And you're talking about Craig T. Nelson, how he plays that moment where it's just the guy, I want to say Ryan, is telling him, oh, we saw this phenomenon where this toy car moved 7 feet over the course of 8 hours.
Can't
And he was just
can't be
like-
seen by the naked eye.
Yeah, I was like, well, okay, here's the door. And he just like throws it open.
I'm not even gonna you deal with this.
See action figure Hulk riding by on a horse, and yeah, it's
It was so good.
stuff. Good stuff.
Because I was like, as soon as they went to these parapsychologists, I was like, they can't. My thought was they're not going to be able to do anything, or the house is going to be normal when they come. So like that was just not where I was expecting.
Yeah, that's just like, nope, this is a constant observable physical thing happening in this house. And then it's like the smash cut to the dining room table where the woman's like, well, we have to do some tests to determine if this is a legitimate haunting. And the carafe like goes across the table. She's like, I mean, as opposed to like a poltergeist incursion. Like obviously something's happening here. I'm not saying it's not. And she's kind of looking at it like, I don't want to insult the ghosts. Yeah. That part's really funny. I think that's what we were talking about probably the most when we were referencing that part of some of this movie is very funny.
Yes. Yeah. Now wait, question.
Yeah.
Was it not a poltergeist? Was it a haunting? Were they wrong?
Oh, you think?
Yeah, because a haunting they said is confined to an area.
Yeah.
And the
And poltergeists are attached to people.
to people. So they're wrong? It's a haunting?
Oh, maybe it's both.
Well, it seems to be haunting based on the bodies coming out, right? You think?
Well, I'm thinking it's confined to the area of the graveyard.
But poltergeist based on there is the beast trying specifically to get to Carol Ann.
Yes, I forgot about that. I think it's both,
Yeah.
right?
So the movie could have been poltergeist / haunting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's a poltergeist opening the door for a haunting because Zelda Rubinstein, I forget the name of her character, Tangina or whatever.
Yeah.
Says that whatever this was powerful enough to punch a hole into
Yes.
this, dimension or whatever, this plane. So that is the poltergeist, I guess. But there's some haunting too. I guess the skeletons don't start popping up until later on, right?
Yes.
I feel like she briefly implied it was Satan. Because she called him
She
like
calls it the beast,
the,
right?
the beast, and I think she said like the dark prince or something like that at one point. Like,
yeah.
but yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I did feel like there was like a couple of things going on where like there were some like non-malevolent ghosts, there were some that were just like fucking around with things, and then there was, but I couldn't tell if that was just them warming up. But it seemed like if they were gonna push you across the room, if they were angry, they would have like just slammed you into the wall.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I also like when those parapsychologists show up and like all that shit's going on. I think the dad tells the mom to take the kids and go stay at that Holiday Inn or whatever, and she's like, "No, I'm not leaving Carol Ann," or something. All I could think of was, "I'm not leaving my youngest favorite child, even if it kills my other two."
Yeah.
That was one of my annoyances with the movie, is I felt like they made some of the worst decisions possible.
Well, they send the older one away, and then they send Robbie away like the next day.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
they don't
eventually.
actually keep the kids; they keep them there for like that night.
Yeah. That night, though, they the parapsychology team does certainly catch some evidence on their video cameras.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool scene. So first is the camera moving to point up the staircase, and
Mhm.
like the ghosty lady comes down, and they play it back, and you're looking at what seems to be minors almost. I don't know. To me, they looked like the figures had like hard hats on, but maybe they just had hats on, or maybe it was just
I could
cloth
tell.
blowing around in front of the camera.
I think that would make sense with the like the area, the country they were
Right,
in.
yeah.
Like coal miners in Arizona or wherever. I'm not sure exactly where they were, but
And that's right around the time Ryan goes into the kitchen to get food. And
Not Ryan. Ryan's the black guy.
Oh yeah, who is it?
Marty, I want to say.
I forgot. Something like
Martin?
that.
I don't know.
Martin.
He goes into their kitchen and just takes a steak out of their fridge and a drumstick, and he just tosses the raw steak on their countertop.
I'll eat that
They'll
later.
never know.
And-
I'm leaving salmonella all over the place.
I was like, what the
It'll
fuck?
be
Terrible
like E.
house
coli.
He
You
pulls a
just-
steak out of this person's fridge. He's like, I'm just gonna cook this up.
Tosses it across.
Throw
I'll
it right
cook
on
this
your
up.
countertop.
Real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna die too when he was peeling his face off.
Yeah. Okay, so that's enough. Did you guys know about that scene?
No.
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah. no.
That is one of the most famous scenes from this movie. Yeah, supposedly that's the guy wasn't doing it right, so that's actually Spielberg's hands that are pulling at the face, because he's like, "No, do it like this," and he's like, "I'll do it myself."
See,
I'm
now,
sure he was mad when he was doing it.
now I have this great mental image of Steven Spielberg like behind someone. You just like,
Yeah.
Ripping their
let me
face
show
off.
you how to do
Yeah.
that.
Now-
So that's one of those things where it starts going, and you're like, "Oh no," and then it just keeps going for a while.
Yes.
So what's going through y'all's minds as that scene plays out?
It was gross. Honestly, one kind of problem I think I had with this movie in general is I think I just watched it too late. Because there's a lot of things in this movie that I see and I feel like I have a hard time being like, I haven't seen this a million times before. But I'm like, after watching, I'm like, well, did this movie do it first? I was like, probably. Because like that scene, I feel like there's similar scenes like that in a lot of movies now where someone's like ripping off some of their skin or something like that. But obviously now they can make them look better. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of, the like clip shows where it'll be the 100 scariest moments in film history. And that scene is pretty much always on those lists. And it's always people talking about like, well, I hadn't seen anything like that before, and it ruined my life. Nothing really has happened in the movie that would suggest that it's about to get turned up to that. I guess the kid almost gets eaten by a tree, but turned up to that. Like,
Yeah, I wasn't.
you ain't
like,
never seen that before.
I wasn't expecting that, but I've seen way worse things in plenty
Sure,
of
yeah.
movies.
Well,
so
yeah.
like it didn't like. I was like, wow, this is gross and like unexpected.
Yeah.
Especially since this and E.T. had the same rating. They were both PG movies.
Well, I was gonna say I was waiting for this scene to transition into this movie is rated PG for parental guidance suggested.
We let our toddler
the
watch
80s.
it.
You guys watched it with Ren, I'm assuming.
Yeah, she can't sleep tonight for some
Yeah.
reason.
So she's having a terrible time going to sleep. The MPAA doesn't introduce PG-13 until 1984.
Because of this.
And is there enough in this movie to make it a R? Probably not.
Definitely wouldn't be an R today.
Maybe at
No.
the time.
But there's like a couple moments that are like, whoa, it'd be crazy for a kid to see that. But for the most part, it's pretty tame.
Mm.
But that's one of those. That's
besides
one of
that-
those moments.
Yeah.
What else is there really? I guess the skeleton like coming out of the closet's kind of spooky. And then like I guess the skeletons later on, but not. I don't know.
It's funny because if they had just added in like 5 swears, they probably would have gotten the R rating.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But yeah, no. So this is a PG movie, but you're saying you did watch it with your child, right?
Of course, yeah. PG
With
so-
your Carol Ann.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I guess even if you just took out that face ripping scene, even the skeletons would be pretty like mild.
Yeah.
Everything else is very mild.
Yeah.
This movie gets nominated for, but I believe loses to E.T. for special effects at the Oscars. Or for visual effects, whatever the name of the category is. Yeah, so, parental guidance suggested.
Not required.
Not required. And honestly, that's what you get for taking people's food out of the fridge. But this is one of the many moments where you're like, man, I know Steven Spielberg wrote this, but it's weird that there's so much controversy of people insisting that he must have been the one who directed it. Aided, of course, by most people involved with this movie say, no, it's definitely Tobe Hooper, but there's like a couple errant quotes from people involved with the production. They're like, no, it was Spielberg. He was calling all the shots. And for some reason, everyone's like, yes, those 12 other people were lying, but this one person. But this is, from the gross food and the skin stuff, it's Tobe Hooper. He made Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like,
Oh, okay.
this is what he does. This is where his bread's buttered.
The steak was very gross. That was very, very unsettling.
Yeah,
Yes, that was gross.
yeah.
Even that's another thing you've seen a million times before, though. Someone's eating some kind of food and now all of a sudden it's full of maggots.
Yep.
With the drumstick, but that was nasty still.
Reference to some Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene stuff in Pearl in theaters now.
But yeah, that guy should have died because of what he did with that steak. He doesn't come back after that night,
No.
right?
That's right.
They're
No,
like,
he
"Yeah,
doesn't.
He won't be returning.
Then she just puts it, Marty will not be returning.
Smart.
And they just don't make like a big deal out of it, and no one ever really asks. But like, we know why.
Yes, we do.
We know why. Fuck that clown, though. For real.
It's like, oh, you mean the guy that just threw my steak on the floor? Great.
Good. It's like,
At
yeah,
this point in the movie, too, is when I turned to Ray and was like, the next scene is when they tell us it's an ancient. I was like, well, it's old. They're going to tell us it's an ancient Indian burial ground. I was like, that's the next scene for sure.
Around here is where he goes and has a walk with his boss, right?
I think that it's either the next scene or like a few after that. But at like this point in the night, I was like, that's what it has to be. It's going to be like a Native American burial ground they're on.
Yeah, the boss.
I was wrong, but that's what I was like positive.
I was expecting that too. I was really pumped when he was like, well, it's not like an ancient Native American burial ground, so it should be fine.
Yes.
There's a reveal in that scene too, not informationally, where he's talking about the literal reveal of the information that Craig T. Nelson didn't have, that their house is built over an old cemetery. But the scene where he's saying, oh, just picture a bay window right here. And the camera like pulls back and you realize that they're standing on the edge of a massive cemetery.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they've been standing there for a while, but the camera hadn't let you know that before. And that's just good filmmaking.
I thought
Another big laugh from me. He's like, yeah, you could have a huge house right here. And the camera changes. He's like, it's a cemetery.
Yes. I was pumped because I was like, I knew it. But then he does that. I thought it was funny too. He's like, it's not like an ancient ceremonial thing or ancient tribal, I think he says. And I'm like, oh, that was wrong.
We can fuck with other dead people. That's fine.
For sure. Have we gone back to whatever you said before that I was like, we should talk about that once we're actually in it?
How did they do the ghosts?
No idea. We've seen some ghostly objects at this point, so it would be a good time to talk about it.
As soon as I think the first ghost we see is like the hand.
Yeah, out of the TV.
Out of the TV. And as soon as I saw that hand, I had mentioned earlier, I was like, I wonder what year they remade this. I don't know what it was, but it was as soon as I saw that, I was like, they definitely have remade this now.
Didn't they do something just like that in Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Sure.
I don't know, because that's what I was thinking of. It was like the same special effects. But
I had assumed though, I felt like in like the 2010s they had that point where they just remade like every horror movie, and I was like, they had to have remade it then.
Yes. Oh yeah, no. I mean the wisp, I guess, is cool. Is interesting too. I don't know how they would have done that. And then just the images of like them coming down the stairs and stuff. It was, I don't know. It wasn't great, but it was pretty interesting for the time.
Yeah.
yeah.
The construction workers in this movie. Oh my
It's the
god.
80s.
Oh my god.
And her mom's inside like, oh, those dogs.
rascals. Like, what the?
Should send E-Buzz out there.
Yeah.
What kind
She
of
knew
dogs they
them.
got over there?
I mean, it's not any better.
Yeah,
but-
one of them's just
No.
named Bluto. And he's just sticking his head in, just like licking everything. Hygiene in the 80s, man.
Licking their food. She's like, oh, Bluto.
We learned a lot about food safety post-Reagan, I feel like.
It's like, and this guy's like kind of your boss. Like, he's definitely higher in the company than you, and you're just fucking with his house, like,
right?
and his daughter.
Hitting on
Fucking
the
with his house.
16-year-old.
Did not like that.
No.
Yeah,
Did not
and it wasn't
that
like
at
they
all.
were in a construction site. They were in her backyard.
yeah.
If it was in a construction site, I'd be like, obviously, this is fair game. Hit on all the children you'd like.
If you don't want to be creepily catcalled, don't walk by construction workers ever.
But in your own backyard.
And your
Not
mother's
cool.
just like,
Yeah.
those guys.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah. One of you snatch her up. She's single.
They're like 30.
Oh, man.
She's a year older than I was when I had my babies.
Oh, God.
And just, I haven't been able to find that information. I don't want just a bunch of dead air. So I'll just say, oh, no pun intended on dead air.
Oh, I guess when we talk, it's dead air.
Yeah, so I don't want all this bullshit. I don't want you to just like stop me being like, hold on, everyone shut up for a second. So let's just move on. But the special effects produced by Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's company.
Oh,
Big
so is
George.
Magic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
And lights.
one of the better named companies ever, for sure.
Yes.
So what were you guys talking? No, I'm kidding. So Zelda Rubinstein, again, her name's Tangina. Is that Tangina or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
I'm going to look it up, and if it's just like Jan, I'm going to have to cut all that weird shit out. Anyway. Yeah, so she is an unsettling presence.
Yes.
Her character in this is giving them not enough information to be confident in, but with the parapsychologists urging, they're like, well, we have to trust this person.
Yes.
And she's clearly purposely not giving them all the information because she's trying to manipulate things a certain way. And the rules that she sets out keep changing.
I'm not entirely convinced she had any of the information. I think she had like a loose idea and she was like, let's be mysterious. Because
Yeah.
if they question me, I cannot answer these questions.
I kind of got the vibe of one of those people who are like really confident in what they're doing, even though they have no idea.
Millennials.
There you go.
Yeah. She's just an elder millennial.
When you lie on your resume to get the job anyway.
Yeah, you
Damn
kind of
right.
you fake it till you make it now.
Fake it till you make it. So, I love the moment when all the stuff's going down. She's like, I gotta go in. And the mom's like, I'll go in. She's like, you don't know. You've never done this before. She's like, you havenin either.
Like, you're right.
I mean, you're right.
Okay.
And I
Well,
don't want to,
don't
actually.
have a
So
prepared response. So
she's like, hell yeah, I didn't want to go into the hellhole.
like, she's not going to know who you are. And like, I'm not trying to be politically incorrect, but she's going to be a little freaked out by you.
You may have heard this before, but you're a little off-putting and probably not the most comforting to children.
Their plan of like, let's throw a rope through, it'll come out like this hole where everything else is coming through, and just go right in, get the kid, is like, I feel like a planned children would have come up with.
Well, it works.
Not that I would have come up with a better plan. That was probably the same plan I would have come up with. But
From a retrieving Carol Ann aspect, it does work. From a cleansing the house aspect, clearly that is...
she was very confident in that the fact that she had cleaned the house.
I love that, like, the Randy maybe was like pumped when the ball came through, and he was like, "It's my handwriting." It's like, oh, okay, because if like a different ball,
you know,
came
the
through.
devil's on the other side with like trying to scratch out what they threw through a tennis ball. Oh shit! What did you say? Go.
Now, the other thing too is that everything comes on the other side so disgusting. I was like, how can
Yeah.
you even read that? And why is nobody concerned? Like, just so you know, you're gonna be gross when you come back.
And they're like, no, this is
Robbie
fine.
doesn't tell
It came through.
He's like, well, he said it came through. He's like, did he say if it was gross? He's like, he didn't mention it. It must be fine.
What is it covered? Like at first I thought it was covered in blood.
Ectoplasm, right?
Yeah, it's like pink though. At first I thought it was like
Yeah.
covered in blood, and I was like, "You're not gonna warn them about this?"
It's definitely covered in something toxic. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. Tennis
I
ball's
think
all right.
It's pinkish to allow you to think it's like viscera, right? So,
I also noticed that around this time,
but to still have a PG rating.
yes, is around when I'm like, the dad hasn't told anyone else that this place is definitely built on a cemetery. I don't think at this point.
Oh no!
Well, I think that's one of those things that in a vacuum you can be like, well, he doesn't want his family to worry, and they said they moved the bodies. But in this situation, you bring it up
Right.
when
yeah.
it's being explained to you. Well, hauntings are about locations, poltergeists are about people. He's like, well, clearly they're interested in my daughter, but also this location. It's not great.
Like when they were talking about it, he didn't seem concerned because they were like, well, we moved it 5 minutes down the road. He's like, they wouldn't be bothered by 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
So I think
right,
he's just
yeah, that's
being.
true.
I think he's
It's
just
like,
being
it's not
dumb.
that-
He's like, no,
Yeah.
no, that couldn't be related to the angry ghosts I have
I
in my
think he's
house.
just being dumb.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
Also, a little backtracking, but I really like when his boss shows up at his house and the piano is like moving across the
It's like,
floor,
oh,
and he's just
come
like,
over here.
"Let's go!" And
I-
the light bulbs like turn on and stuff.
I do not understand the decision to not tell the boss what was going on in the house. I don't like, especially when you had so much just easily provable evidence. Like, hey, listen, I need another week. Can you just look at this room real quick?
I think it's one of those things where they consider themselves normal people and they don't want any attention. And it was a lot for them to even go to the parapsychology people,
Okay.
is what I'm assuming. I mean, this is
Oh, this
This
is
is-
the 80s.
yeah, this is the 80s. We don't talk about it, right?
Right,
This is
Right.
with like we're normal, we're good Americans. You know, we read our Reagan books and we go to bed. And, you know,
The boss would be like, wait. Parapsychologist? You're fired. I can't have crazy people working here.
yeah, you can tell it's not completely this like reticent dad archetype thing, but there is like he's a little more reticent to engage with the paranormal stuff.
Mhm.
Like we just don't want to be this kind of person, and you can tell the relief that the woman parapsychologist gives to the mom when she's just like, we're not crazy, but please don't tell anyone about this. Please don't put us on TV. We just want our daughter back. She's like, no, this is happening. I'm telling you that this is a thing that's happening. She's like, okay, good.
Yeah, I guess the thing too is like even if you shared the footage, just nobody would believe it regardless.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're gonna call it a fake no matter what.
Yep.
I don't know if we'd be able to find this information, but what was the light bulb budget on this film? It has been really high, right?
A lot of strobes. a lot of
Everything was like
bulbs.
bright lights everywhere, and like
Scariest movie ever for epileptics.
I was thinking that. I was like, oh god.
It's up there. So at this point, Tangina says this house is clean, and she like poses really proud of
I am
herself.
always like, why did she think it was?
Yeah, because there's not really like a moment of cleansing. It's just
No.
they get the daughter back, but you know,
You just stole this little girl
No,
from
no,
the
no.
angry person.
It,
like the stuff stops happening in the house at least temporarily.
They kind of no. They talk about it. She says something about that, like the poltergeist is stopping all the other spirits from
Oh yeah,
from
Right.
she
crossing.
tells them to cross over,
and it's her telling them to cross over, and she says none of them can cross over while Carol Ann's there because she's like a bright light, and they all go to her instead of
that's
to
right.
the main light, like the actual light. And then that was the big thing with her, like they try to lure them all to the light, and I think that is like the closet is the like, especially when the big one comes through the closet, it's them all getting to the light and Carol Ann getting out on the other side.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think that's why she thinks that.
Okay.
okay, sure.
So something just occurred to me, because I don't know if anyone else was wondering this, but I was kind of curious, like, why was it this specific family? And then I just remembered that they were the first house built in that development. So that was probably why.
Yeah, they've been there probably the longest, right? They're phase 1, he says.
And I think he specifically mentions, like, I bought the first house in
Okay.
phase
Yeah,
1.
yeah, probably.
It could have something to do with Carol Ann too.
Yeah. Her
She-
life force is so strong.
Yeah, she says it's her being full of life. You know what I mean? I'm assuming it's because she's like a little girl and like.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's but the movie's not actually over at this point.
I can't remember, even though I just watched it last night, if I was like, this is the end of this. I didn't think it was, though.
So it got to the part where they're loading boxes and Craig T. Nelson like almost trips on the bicycle and he's out in front of the house.
I thought that could be the end. Once it kept going, I was like, oh, this.
Yeah, and then I remembered, oh, this movie has a false finish, right? And then I'm just like on edge, like, ooh, when's it going to turn back? And they do a good job of just like, okay, so the movie's over, right? And it's like, nope, okay, and now it's nighttime and they're getting into bed again. It's like, why are we still here? What are we doing? And like, the kid's still freaked out by the clown, and like, okay, why is this still playing like it's a horror movie? And oh, we're not done yet.
Yeah, the fact that the clown is still fucking there, he didn't get fucking packed.
I think they planned on leaving him.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's why he didn't get back.
How would they ever be able to sell the house? I did notice too, I think, and I don't know when it starts, around the time the mom gets in the bathtub or something, there's no more sound. And I was like, well, this is just horrible and like totally unenjoyable.
My thing was Family Guy did a whole episode on this, and I knew that there was going to be a part with a skeleton in the pool, and I hadn't seen that yet. So I knew it couldn't have been the end at that point.
Yeah, and there's so much, they're talking about there being a cemetery. There's so much emphasis on the digging.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's so much digging between E-Buzz like trying to dig up Tweety, and then you see that paired with the actual construction equipment digging up the pool, and yeah, that stuff's coming. And yeah, it pops off again. The kid knows that clown he's moving around the room. He goes looking for him, checks under the bed, checks the other side. He comes back up and you see it like in sort of soft focus behind him, and it's got a crazy face on now. Gets him in a headlock.
Second scariest part of the movie.
Yeah.
Love the fact that he's just like, I'm gonna have to fucking fight this clown. I'm fucking killing this clown right now.
Yes.
And we get like an extended scene of him murdering this clown. This clown stands no chance against Robbie.
Yeah. I
yeah.
like he immediately goes into like, okay, it's me versus the clown mode. Not like help me, get me out of here, but just like
This is mono.
this is what we've been like. I've been waiting for this moment. I've known this is coming.
Yes. I've known this is coming for a while. I've
Yeah.
thought about what I'm gonna do. I'm pulling the stuff right out of this guy.
Yeah, I've thought about every angle. As an extremely scared child, I can relate. It's like, well, I've known that monsters were going to come and try and kill me, so I have some contingencies in mind.
I mean, as the viewer, it was just very cathartic that we got to see the clown not exist anymore, because that doesn't normally happen in the movies. Like the clown doll is just part of the scenery. Nobody tears it to pieces.
Rips to shreds.
Yeah, and you can tell the clown was not expecting him to have like that much, really, just that much gusto into his defense.
Although, to be fair, it is a little weird that we're scared of like stuffed clown dolls in general. They're not really made out of a strong fabric.
Well, this one wraps his arm right around his neck, and awful. But yeah, so this scene's going on, and while that's happening, they start getting sucked into the closet again.
The fucking closet. Tape that shit shut.
And while that's happening, with all like the ooze and tentacles coming around the side of the door, while that's happening, the mom is being assaulted in bed, and then on the ceiling, and then on the walls.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Not so much the weird assault part, but her like rolling around on the ceiling.
Yeah, I would have to guess same mechanism as Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's what I was thinking. It has to be. At first, I was like, "Oh, the room's just tilted on its side," but then she
goes all the way over.
You see her to go the full loop, and I'm like, "Oh, the room's got to be spinning or something."
Yeah, the fact that it's like a line that she makes up one wall, across the ceiling, and down the other wall, and you're like, "Oh, because that's the axis that we're turning."
Yeah.
Yes.
It is funny because those are two scenes back to back that were both parodied in Scary Movie, and I never picked up on that.
Oh, sure, yeah. So yeah, at this point we're all like, ooh, what's up with No, I was gonna make fun of Kyle for his Nightmare on Elm Street take again, but I in the moment said, you know what, that's gonna be way too long a walk.
I'm
We're not
like-
gonna go there.
At this point, I'm just wondering, how did the ghosts get their ghost powers? Like, you know what I mean? How can they suck people into the closet? They don't explain.
But how did the poltergeist get so poultery?
How does he? So he has the ability. You're just going to tell me he has the ability to suck people into closets, like, but you're not going to explain where he got that.
We don't have like a flashback explaining why the poltergeist is mad.
That would be nice. We could have this flashback where it shows him getting mad. He like rubs a lamp. He wishes for the ability to like suck people into closets.
He has
So
a horrible backstory about being tortured in a closet.
Yes, and then it would all make sense to me.
I just don't understand how he got his powers after that, though. Anyway. Yeah, so then the mom fights her way over to the room. There's like a scary-ish, like bloodborne looking ghost that pops out of the floor and is like, "Nuh-uh." And she gets thrown down the stairs.
The stairs again. I was like, this is why you don't make stairs like this.
No.
You got the closet door just getting grosser and grosser.
Yeah, but she makes it back up, and I guess it's wire work and fans, but it really does look like those people are getting sucked into the closet.
Yeah.
The scene of them like getting pulled in the closet looks awesome. I also
It looks
like
so
when the
good.
hallway like elongates and she has to like
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
down the really long hallway.
Also a very famous shot, and this coming 7 years after Spielberg does the dolly zoom in Jaws.
Mm.
This was, I think, a similar. I'm not a filmmaker. I've never even held a camera of any kind. But my understanding is that's the similar process of, you know, you're zooming out while you're moving the camera in, or you're moving the camera back while you're zooming in. And so it's not like and you can make any hallway do that. And it's a cool thing to do while the person's running down the hallway.
That was really cool. But yeah, I loved when the kids are getting sucked into the closet again because it does really look like they're getting sucked
It
into
really
the closet.
looks like, and
It
again,
looks really good.
especially like both times Carol Ann gets sucked in, whatever, if it's a dummy, if it's a small stunt actor, I don't know. If it's just straight up Heather O'Rourke doing it, I don't know. But like, yeah, that girl looks like she's getting sucked into the air.
Yeah,
It's cool.
Mhm.
it's a really cool effect.
It's a
Because
great effect.
that holds up now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I can only imagine like you go to see this movie 40 years
Yeah.
ago.
Oh, and we're forgetting
no, don't
that's
say that. It is 40 years ago, but
Yeah.
geez, 80s
Yeah.
was 40 years ago.
Yeah. We're forgetting that in between the bedroom and the kids' room is when she gets outside into the pool, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she falls.
She's a determined mom. I was exhausted just watching that whole sequence with her.
So
I think you get to a certain point where you're just like, fuck this poltergeist. You are
No.
not taking my kids.
once she lands in the pool and the skeletons pop up, that's when I was like, they didn't move the bodies, huh? That's when I realized I was like, oh my God, they didn't move the fucking bodies. They only moved the headstone.
See, that was like the one thing I remembered about this movie was that it was a cemetery that they didn't move the bodies and that they were like in the pool, like when they were digging. And I was like, oh, so I knew that scene was coming the whole time.
This has raised a lot of questions for me immediately.
This is raised a lot of questions. So you have seen this scene, or is it potentially the same scene?
It's probably the same scene.
Okay.
It was just the knowledge. I had the knowledge of like,
Yeah,
you know,
this is coming.
this
yeah.
is happening.
I didn't mean to
yeah.
cut you off, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
had my own questions raised.
Yeah, my questions are, how did you think you could get away with not moving these bodies? Where you were like, nobody's ever going to put in a pool. Nobody's going to dig a basement. You know what I mean? No one's going to dig a deep hole in their yard ever.
How didn't they notice when they dug the foundations?
I was going to say the foundation.
Well,
the
they dug the
streets,
foundations.
water
That's what I
mains,
was
gas
thinking.
lines, like
And
sewage.
where did that boss even get his powers?
But I was like, this, like, there's going to be so many bodies in this pool.
Yeah, and there was.
There was a lot.
There's just the whole development was just filled with bodies. Like somebody would have
Yeah.
noticed a body by now. One of the dogs would have just dug one up.
It's funny though, because when me and Ray, whenever we watch like HGTV, like home shows, remodel ones and whatever, we always think about how funny it would be because they always run into a problem. They're like, these are your options and this is how it affects the timeline. We're like, yeah, we found a body in the backyard. If we call the police, it's going to add 8 weeks to our timeline. They're going to shut everything down. Or I can put it in one of these contractor bags for $2 and throw it in the trash.
Here's what we do. It's real respectful. Like, we build it right back into the wall and we hang a cross right here.
So that's what I think.
Definitely your cheapest option.
I think immediately with the pool, like, oh, we dug up some bones, but
I really want this pool in time for summer vacation.
Here's the thing. The bones could be from anything as long as we just get rid of these skulls.
very respectfully, of course.
Great idea for like a found footage horror movie that it's an episode of someone like some house renovation show, but they, disturb some ancient evil.
There you go. All right,
Yeah.
so we've
I'd watch
disturbed
that.
some ancient evil. First thing we need to find out, how did it get its powers?
Only way that you can do it so it has all the production and effect is it's like, oh, it's our 10th anniversary, so it's going to be a live episode. So that's how you have all like the chyrons built in and like the cuts to commercial and stuff. Oh, I'm glad we said this on the podcast because now it's our copyright.
I have like a really funny mental image of like the HDD TV and then like the banner comes up and it's like 1800s haunted skeleton.
And he just mumbles and the caption says brains.
But yeah, so at this point, I realized, they didn't move the bodies. But when the dad like shows up and then the boss is there and he's like yelling at him, he's like, "You didn't move the bodies."
You just moved the headstones.
I
You
love
son
that.
of a bitch. Why?
Yeah, you son of a bitch, why? And like, I don't know
It's like,
why, because it's not like that crazy of a reveal, but it's like enough where I was like, oh, I really like it. I really like that. That's their little like reveal is that they only move the headstones.
I like that too. I know horror movies don't have to have that, but I was like, I wonder what the moral is here. Like, just don't skimp construction costs or like.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely because he was being cheap, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, I don't know. I don't really feel like that strongly about never moving a cemetery or anything like that. So it's like that didn't seem to be the point either. It seemed to be like move the whole cemetery. Like, do we need this message at some point?
Move the entire cemetery.
This was a big issue in the 80s.
If you're going to move a cemetery, move the whole thing.
Man, and so he's yelling at him. They get the kids out of there. Everyone's in the house. I love when the daughter comes back and she's just like, "What is happening?"
And they're like, "Get in the car."
And she just has to stand there and scream for a while. And it's like, well, that's very real. I think I wouldn't be able to process. Oh, we got to get awake. I'm getting in the car. I'd just be like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, that's all happening. All the neighbors are coming out, and if you're watching, there's still like caskets popping through the ground and more skeletons coming out.
And at some point, there's just a stream of fire shooting through the ground. That was probably one of the gas lines.
a casket probably went through it. When they were burying the gas line, like, well, there's a casket here, but we can go right over it.
No, everyone's cutting costs, so they go to put in the gas line, and like this only needs to be like 2 feet down, right? They're never gonna find any bodies.
Oh man.
One thing that surprised me, and I think you had mentioned it too, but it was kind of nice, is that no one dies.
That was my favorite part of this movie because I feel like as soon as I saw that dog, I was like, man, they always kill the dog first. I'm like, the dog's gonna die immediately. Yeah. And the dog never died. And I was like, this is awesome. Not one person died. And I feel like that never happens in horror movies.
Dog's
Never.
just doing cute shit with the ghosts. Like,
Yeah.
standing up on his legs and stuff.
Yeah. When Renly was a baby, she used to like stare at walls and laugh. And that was
Yeah,
like,
there was like a corner of the ceiling. She used to like look in it all the time and then like smile and laugh at it and stuff. And it was just like there was nothing in it. It was
I gotta say, ceiling-based horror, I don't like. Not a fan.
no, a big fan of stair-based horror.
yes.
That was a good staircase. Good stair movie.
This is a great stair movie.
A great stair movie.
We left
Stairs
it.
are
We left it
terrible.
off of our whatever episode we made a best stairs movie list on. But this is a great stair.
Was that The Shining? Because The Shining had great stairs too.
Great stairs.
I think it was
probably
I think
No, it was Parasite.
Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
that one.
But The Shining was on the
list. Shining was on the
Yeah.
list.
Shining is a great stair movie.
Parasite's
Titanic was on there.
Yep,
Oh.
but this is a good stairs movie.
Yeah.
I died when that motel room door open back up and he pushes the
Very
TV
funny.
out.
Fuck this TV.
Uh,
This too is one of those movies where like I'm very sad we didn't get like an afterword because I really want to know what happened in that neighborhood. Like now everyone has seen this shit, and a house just disappeared. Like even like seeing a newspaper article that like had a headline or something.
Immediate thought as the credits were rolling was like, man, he is going to be in for a long and confusing call with his homeowner's insurance tomorrow. No, you don't understand. It's gone.
It's gone, and there's dead bodies everywhere.
Like it's burnt to the ground. No.
I would theft. Someone stole my house.
It's gone. That's obviously, I mean, I'm sure it's a little dated, but I had a great time with that particular moment. And that must have been another one that really got to people back in the day, because that house does just crumple up like a little paper ball.
Yep.
And that's
I
a
don't
cool
quite
moment.
understand why.
It gets
It's done.
Oh, the sucking just kept happening, and it sucked in on itself.
Must have been.
that's what I assumed.
I don't know.
That hole that
I was
thing
watching
punched.
it and I'm like, that the poltergeist was just like, well, fine, I'm taking your house.
Love it.
I just don't think his insurance is going to cover it. Like this is probably like act of God, right?
Yeah.
Act of Satan.
We don't cover this.
Yeah. There's no way that's covered.
Listen, I have a somewhat off-putting woman who can attest to the fact that this is not an act of God.
Your best bet in that situation is just to call them up and be like, my house is gone, send out an inspector. And they'll be like, what happened? You'll be like, I don't know. I was in this hotel. I was in this
I was
hotel.
gonna say that's my immediate thought was like, you cannot tell them anything. Just tell them you it's a total loss. Send out an inspector.
I think I would just say someone must have stolen it.
It's
I
like,
came home and it's
you're
gone.
the insurance investigator. You investigate.
out.
Let me know what happens.
yeah.
I
Don't even,
promise you I had nothing to do with it.
don't tell them it was stolen. There's no way that theft of your house is covered. There's no way. They definitely don't cover that.
Like we have robbery up to like $5,000 covered, but that's
Oh, you know what? They would just definitely go with gas leak, especially with those other flames. They'd be like, oh, there must have been a gas leak, and it just blew it to absolute pieces. Like, just
There's not
minuscule
a piece
with,
left.
with the yeah, I love that shot when they're driving away and there's just like the torrents of fire going off
that's
around the
right.
neighborhood.
Yes, but there's not even a piece of the house left. There's no evidence of an explosion.
Well,
of the
that's
house.
their problem.
Yeah,
As the homeowner, you got to pick that not your problem.
Yes.
Man, I'm disappointed that neighbor didn't come in and help her. I really thought he was going
That
to.
was fucked up.
That was
Yeah.
really fucked up. Especially
That
the wife was
sucks.
like, "Don't go in that house." It's like I would get like if it was just your adult neighbor. Like it's one thing to be like you can let the adult handle themselves, but there was children screaming in the house. Like
You could hear the children screaming.
and they specifically, it's like you can't just leave the children. What's wrong with you, man?
Well, he didn't want to go in the front door, and he couldn't climb the tree anymore since he got sucked into space.
This is true. All right. We got a lot to talk about this episode. That's a good thing though.
Mm.
Any final thoughts before we go into ratings?
Hmm.
Or I mean, you can also present your final thoughts during ratings. But I mean, any other like we should pay attention to this topic or something. You guys know what I mean. You've done this bunch.
Yeah, I mean, my one criticism is I really don't think I liked the way they did the false reveal, because after everything that happened the night before and with all those children, like, you should not have been anywhere near that house. You already all should have been at the hotel. You should not have been taking a relaxing tub and telling your kids to answer the phone. Like, I don't know. I get they thought they were safe. I just didn't think that was a realistic.
This is the lady who, when she saw there were ghosts, we were like, let's see if I can get him to pull my kid across the floor.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of
Alright.
stupidity
Yeah.
going on.
All
It
right.
did
There's
sound like they were planning on spending the night at the hotel because the father was just
Yeah.
like, let them fall asleep. And then, like, once I get there, we'll bring them to the hotel.
Yes.
Well, and when he said he was going to be back soon, I assumed he meant before the sun went down. You know, like I would not have been staying
Yeah.
there when it was
It's-
dark.
Well, he's quitting his job in one day, I guess. And that takes some time.
It's that meme of the stock photo of the like people laughing and moving, and it says like white families moving into a haunted house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair,
Right.
fair, and it's pretty minor. It was a little like, I don't know. He could have done it better. I think.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
It put it over the edge, like when she was like getting in the bathtub. I'm like, this is a little too comfortable. Just a little too much, you know?
Right.
She was very comfy.
I think that was probably his like.
He's
and
sitting on my suitcase in front of the door.
I guess
like on
if
the
you-
stoop.
Yeah,
just ready to
exactly.
go.
I guess if you're not expecting a false like ending or whatever, it must have been way more convincing that they were 100% acting like everything was normal. Maybe that's the.
So I'll be honest, I have no criticisms of this movie really,
Hmm.
but I did not particularly like it.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I don't really like horror in general, though. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me, to be totally honest. And I don't, like I said, I can't give you like this didn't sit well with me or this didn't, because it was all pretty good. It was just like, I don't know. It didn't do it
So
for me.
I liked the storytelling in this movie, but I didn't like the actual horror plot, I think. Like I feel like there was a lot that wasn't very satisfying.
Mm.
And I can't quite tell you why. but-
Not to be too much. I don't know how he got his powers, but I think they could have done a little bit with like why this specific poltergeist was angry. Like they could have been like he was murdered and buried in an unmarked. I don't know. Like there could have been a little bit more there, maybe.
I think it didn't feel as horror-y because again, like there was a lot of moments where I was laughing through the movie because it was a good like storytelling kind of thing.
Yes.
But like as far as like it being scary, like nobody died, you know. They were very like casual about all the stuff that was happening in the house. Like no one was like ever like super terrified. I never felt like super afraid for them, I think.
Maybe it's because they didn't pick a lane, and maybe that's where you see the Spielberg versus Tobe, like.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think it was particularly scary, but I just assumed it's because it's a bit older.
Mm.
Yeah, but some older horror movies like really pull it off still and are still really scary.
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of horror. So.
Well, I mean, you think of like The Shining or like,
Well, The Shining's another one that doesn't really scare me.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that one's pretty scary.
Maybe
That
you're
one
just a
scared,
nerd too.
scared me a decent amount. I mean, it wasn't the scariest thing. Like, and I didn't have like nightmares or anything, but like it was decently scary.
What do you think of The Thing? It came out around this time in 1982.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think it really scared me. It was scarier for sure.
Right. I think it was
Yeah,
scarier.
way
Like I
scarier.
feel like this one wasn't as scary.
Maybe The Thing scared me a bit actually.
I haven't seen
That one
it.
did scare me a little.
Yeah, and this is a couple years after
See,
The
when
Shining.
when Ben said that this could have been a sci-fi, like I can see how it like if you twist the knob a little bit, it could go in that direction rather than a horror. You know.
I never said that.
What?
You did, didn't
You said it could have been made as a sci-fi. Like
Yeah,
Like,
like Steven-
like literally a sci-fi movie was pitched, and Tobe Hooper said,
Yes.
"I don't want to make that,
Yes, but I
Yes.
can
so
see
I'm
that.
going to make this movie instead." And they went,
as in
"Oh,
like
okay."
it could in another timeline. It could have.
It
It
wasn't.
could've.
This wasn't the plot though. It was a whole
No.
different thing.
Oh, it was something
Yes.
totally different.
I'm pretty sure.
How
I
does
thought
that-
I
it was.
assumed it was
how-
totally different.
Oh, okay.
How does that work? You like just pitch one movie, it gets approved, and they're like, "But we're just gonna change it entirely."
There must be some trappings of it that they kept. I'm not really sure.
Well, that's what I
haven't
feel
read
like
it.
I can
I don't know
see like
where
how it
he
could.
is at this point, but I think if you're Steven, if like you're
He's making
it's
E.T.
Steven Spielberg, then yeah, you can do whatever you want, really.
Yeah. Well, the sci-fi one was his idea. He wanted to make a horror version of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, and he tapped Tobe Hooper to direct it because he liked Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I guess.
Also, haven't seen that.
So it's totally possible that it was like a sci-fi version of this movie. So I shouldn't say it's not. I literally don't know. I'm just saying I never said that it was.
Well,
I wish
Try
they'd
to
like
take it back.
publish that kind of stuff. Like, I'd love to like just scroll through like the original scripts of a lot of things.
I think he eventually did try it again, but I'm not sure. Always, I want to say late 80s, something like that. I don't know. I liked this movie a lot. I liked that the people in it, again, it reminded me a lot of Jaws in a couple of ways. Because it's just some guys, you know?
I did like that a lot.
Yeah.
It was just
It's just some people. And like these are people that are like, yeah, those are definitely, they're not like that heightened. It's just like these are some people.
Mm.
E.T.
They don't
too.
get
There's
along
just
great
some
with their
people.
neighbors.
Yeah.
They did seem to like. I thought they had a more antagonistic relationship, but it did just seem like they were just busting each other's balls.
yeah.
They don't have a good relationship anymore because they're gonna remember you didn't
yeah.
save my screaming children.
Well, have fun in the neighborhood, people. I don't know if everything's done now that they left, but
We're gonna have to replace some gas lines. Oh man. Okay. Well, let's get into ratings then. I'll post on our Letterboxd, which is Late to the Movies. That's the number 2. You can search that. That's our username on Letterboxd. I post every review that we do for every movie when the episode comes out. And I'm a few weeks behind because I just haven't done it yet. By the time this comes out, maybe I'll be up to date. If you're listening to this, check, and at least then we'll get some traffic. It's not our traffic though. It's Letterboxd. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Just ask them for some like a percentage.
Yeah. And so every time we do this thing, we do it on scales of 5 on a scale of our choosing, and you can go by halves. Does anyone have a good scale and rating ready to go?
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it 4 countertop steaks out of 5.
Oh, that was mine.
You just leave it there. It ages.
Oh, I'm gonna give it 3.5 leaky beers out of 5.
You gave it 4?
4.
You just said you didn't like it.
I said it just didn't do it for me. I didn't think it was a bad movie though.
Okay.
I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah. Sorry.
4 seems high as all. That's fine.
Oh.
I'm just clarifying. That's all. Sorry.
Oh no. I gave it 3.5 leaky beers out of 5.
Cool. I'm going to go 5 murder clown dolls out of 5.
I need a new scale.
If I didn't go with murder clown dolls, I would have gone with murder trees. Hungry murder trees.
Flying trees. I really like that the tree just fucking gets sucked out.
I'm gonna give it 3.5 conflicting remotes.
I like
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I was thinking something about remotes or TV channels.
Mm.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers or football. What do you want?
Who is this guy?
Choose your fighter.
Yeah, that was really like you don't know who Mr. Like I know who Mr. Rogers is.
This is pre-internet. They hadn't seen all his viral videos yet.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie knows who Mr. Rogers is, and he's a regular football dad.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just mean like he's not even like that popular currently, but in the 80s he must have been like, or maybe he wasn't that famous yet. I just figured he was like always a household name, you know? Like he seemed like he was like the guy.
I mean, I could name a bunch of children's programs that are current right now, Robbie, and I bet you wouldn't know any of them.
I don't have kids.
Yeah,
he's a 5-year-old.
Yeah, but
Louis
he's an
something,
80s
right?
dad. He doesn't really have kids.
So it would be like the 2022 version would be like, we're trying to watch esports and you keep changing it to Bluey or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is this guy? Well, it's a girl and she's a dingo or something.
She's an Australian cattle dog, man.
Yeah, a dingo.
Yeah.
50%, kind of.
It's
Anyway.
the same thing.
All right. Well, that about does it for our episode on Poltergeist. Yeah, check us out on Stitcher, Spotify, Podbeans, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere, man. You can follow us on Instagram at late2themovies_podcast. You can email us at late2themovies@gmail.com. You can also go on our TeePublic page, Late to the Movies. Search that on TeePublic. You'll find it. That's about it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being on the podcast, y'all.
Yeah.
Spook you later.
They're not here
See ya.
anymore
This
because
house
it's
is
over.
clean.
This house is
This
clean.
podcast is clean.
All right, so now that we've done the false finish, what else do you guys want to talk about?